Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to class. Today we are going to talk about a very important issue, official language. Most of the countries in the world, roughly out of 178, 79 countries, 100 plus countries have declared at least two languages or more as their official language. So we are going to talk about uh, the purpose of official language, declaring official language, why we need to have an official language, what is an official language, and who determines, who selects, and who decides, and what is the impact on other languages. We'll talk about official language in the context of India. So we are basically going to talk about official language or languages of India. Given the fact that India is a multilingual country and hundreds of languages are spoken in this country, the census 2011 identifies 121 distinct languages. Though if you go by the returns, it's more than 15,000 varieties returned as mother tongue. But the census 2011, identifies 121 languages, out of which 22 are scheduled languages, listed in 8th schedule of the Indian Constitution, and 99 are non-scheduled languages. I am quoting from Census of India 2011. So we'll talk about official languages of India today. Now, what is an official language? Right? An official language, or you can call state language, is a language which has a special status in a particular country or a state or any other body that has certain jurisdiction. For example, UN, United Nations, has 6 languages, identifies 6 languages as their official languages. Right. So typically a country's official language refers to the language used in government administration, governance, judiciary, legislature, and all related domains. And all official activities are essentially carried out in that designated official language, or maybe more than one language, it may be languages. However, the term official language does not typically connote and represent the languages used by people of that particular country. That means people's language may not necessarily be an official language, or official language may not necessarily represent the language of the people. So we have to understand this difference, and that's why they are called official languages, because they are designated. They are carefully selected, developed, designated, and used in all official and government activities. So all these activities are carried out in that particular chosen designated language, and we call that official language. Now, out of 178 countries of the world, so 178 countries of the world recognize official languages constitutionally and statutorily. So there is a statutory compulsion and mandate, and they have announced some or the other language, maybe one language or maybe more than one. In some countries, you have 3 official languages, 4 official languages. I'll talk about the case in India as well. We have more than one official languages. So, 100 of them, more than 100, 101 of them recognize more than one language as official language. If you look at India and the neighboring countries like India, in India you have Hindi and English at central level, central government level, declared as official languages. In Pakistan you have Urdu, in Bangladesh you have Bangla, Afghanistan has Pashto and Dari as their designated official languages. Interestingly, United States of America has not declared any language formally to be official, and English is de facto language of administration and governance. And all the states in the United States have their own, policy of official language, and they carry out their businesses in the particular set of languages. Most of the states recognize more than one. For example, even Bangla is, listed in New York, for that matter, where the voter ID cards and their registration forms for voting are carried out in Bangla as well. So they have 5-6 languages. Bangla is one of them. So that's a diversity. Even Britain doesn't have de jure official languages. De facto, it's English, Welsh in Welsh areas, Scottish in Scotland. So this question is very significant and also very sensitive. So I mean, take the example of Italy for that matter. In late 80s, Italy recognized Italian, standard Italian, as its official language. So in some countries, for example, in Africa, if you go, there are some countries in African subcontinent and continent, they have declared more than 2-3 indigenous languages as their official language. However, official activities are carried out primarily in English or maybe in any of the colonial languages. But in their constitution and officially they have declared 2-3 languages as official languages. So if any indigenous language or set of languages are designated and declared as official language, they are called Indo-Glossic official languages. And if that is not indigenous, has come from outside, it is exoglossic. So majority of the countries where you have a colonial history, a colonial past, have Indo-Glossic as well as exoglossic official languages. India is one of them. India has declared English as associate official language. But always the selection of an official language for a particular country is controversial and debated. And in India, if you look at the case of India, the case of official language is still debated and not settled. Though constitutionally we have settled everything, but you might find undercurrents in non-Hindi speaking states, right? So that's the case in India. I will quote Janet Holmes, 2013, where she says, the identification of, I quote from Holmes, the identification of official languages may also be necessary when the choice of natural language is problematic. National language is problematic, right? We need to understand the difference between national language and official language. India does not have any national language. Hindi is not national language of India. Hindi is official language of India, that too at federal level, at central level. I quote from Holmes, 2013. The identification of official language may also be necessary when the choice of national language is problematic. In multilingual India, for example, attempts to give Hindi sole status as a national language have not succeeded. 14 regional Indian languages are recognized as official languages alongside English and Hindi for the country as a whole, and in addition, different states each have their own official languages. I unquote. Now, if you look at this quote, uh, it is mentioned 14 regional languages, but now if you look at Schedule 8 of Constitution of India, today as we speak in 2021, there are 22 languages now. 8 have been added, and the list grows because 39 more languages are in the queue to be included in the 8th schedule. So, India has 2 languages as official languages, and if you recall the Constitution Assembly debate, we have a long section in that Constituent Assembly debate where the question of official languages and national language was discussed. Ultimately, we agreed to declare Hindi as official language at federal level, at union level of the center, and English was declared as associate official language for a period of 15 years. And if you look at the articles in the Constitution, Part 17, Chapter 1, from 343 to Chapter 4, you have 351. From 343 to 351, all these articles talk about official language of India. We'll come to them shortly. Moving on, because of its colonial history as well as its value as a world language and international lingua franca, instrumental in business and trade, international business and trade, English has acquired a very high status in the sense that majority of countries have English as exoglossic official languages. Somewhere it is de jure, somewhere it is de facto, but it is present. And countries like India, Pakistan, Fiji, Jamaica, and Bahamas, and so many other countries where English is a very dominant and prestigious language. Interestingly, English is not legally an official language of England, the USA, or New Zealand. In these countries, it has not been considered necessary to legislate that the language of the majority is an official language. In New Zealand, ironically, although English is de facto the official language of government and education, Maori and New Zealand Sign Language are the 2 languages which have legal or de jure status as official languages. And the story continues, right? So, moving on, coming to India and the case of Indian de jure official language provision. So, Constitution of India, as I mentioned, from Article 343 to Article 351 describes the constitutional provision and de jure official language of the country. So, the Constitution of India has dedicated section from pages 212 to 217. In Part 17, official language consists of Article 343 to 351, which are dedicated to the matters of official languages of India and the Union of States. Let us have a close look at that. So, this section, 17th section, has 4 chapters, and in each chapter you have 2 articles and their extensions. So, in chapter 1, for that matter, chapter 1 deals with official language of the Union and Commission and Committee of Parliament on official language in article 343 and 344. If you look at chapter 2, it deals with regional languages covering issues of official language or languages of the state. Official language for communication between one state and another, between a state and the union, and special provisions relating to languages spoken by a section of the population of a state in articles 345 to 347. If you look at chapter 3, it deals with language to be used in Supreme Court and in the High Courts and for acts, bills and all parliamentary procedures, a special procedure for enactment of certain laws relating to language in articles 348 and 349, chapter 3, right? If you look at chapter 4 of the same section, chapter 4 deals with language to be used in representations for redressal of grievances. It facilitates for instructions in mother tongue at primary stage. A special officer for linguistic minorities. It deals with directives for development of Hindi language in article 350 and 351. So, these 4 chapters elaborate and describe, right, the de jure official language of India. Article 341 clause 1 of the Constitution provides that Hindi in Devanagari script shall be official language of the Union at central level. In Article 343 section 2 clause 2, it also provided for continuing the use of English in official work of the Union for a period of 15 years, that is up to 25th January 1965. Mind you, we adopted our constitution on 26th January 1950. So, it gives a 15 years period to English to continue as an associate official language from the date of commencement of the constitution, that is 26th January 1950. Article 343 clause 3 empowered the parliament to provide by law for continued use of English for official purpose even after 25th January 1965, because we had a constitutional amendment and we enacted a new act. We will talk about that shortly. Accordingly, section 3 and 2nd of the Official Language Act 1963, amended in 1967, it provides for continuing the use of English in official work even after 25th January 1965. If you look at the history of development of official languages in India, on 26th January 1950, we adopted our constitution with a 15 years window period for English to continue as associate official language towards, as the date of 15 years period was nearing, and we saw a lot of unrest and protest in non-Hindi states, because there was a fear that Hindi will be imposed once English goes, and there was a series of protests, specifically in Madras Presidency, erstwhile Madras Presidency. It went very violent. So, the Government of India had to convene a special session of Parliament and Official Language Act 1963 was enacted and amended in 1967, because 1965 was the deadline for the window period of English. So the Act also lays down both Hindi and English shall compulsorily be used for certain specified purposes such as resolutions, general orders, what we call government orders and GOs, rules, notifications, administrative and other reports, press releases, administrative and other reports, official papers to be laid before a house or houses of parliament, maybe lower house, upper house, what we call Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Contracts, agreement, licenses, permits, tender, notice, and other forms of tender, etc., to be carried out essentially in Hindi and English. In 1976, official language rules were framed under the provisions of Section 8, Clause 1 of Official Language Act 1963. And these rules, and this is the salient feature of those rules. It's a long list, but we'll shortly look at a few salient rules which are very important for us. So these rules were framed, and since then we have been practicing the mandates of these rules. So what are these rules? Number one, and these rules apply to all central government offices, including any office of a commission, committee or tribunal appointed by central government and corporation or company owned by or controlled by it. So all these rules are applicable to Union of States, central government, because all the state governments have their own regional language as official language, and in some lecture we'll talk about that trilingual formula. So communication from a central government office to a state or union territories or to any person in region A, and what is that region A? Comprising of states of Uttar Pradesh, which is in north, Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Bihar, Jharkhand, Rajasthan, Haryana, and UTs of Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Delhi, they are all in Hindi. That means these states that I just named, which are these? UP, Uttarakhand, Himachal, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Bihar, Jharkhand, Rajasthan, Haryana, and Union Territories of Andaman and Nicobar and Delhi. These are essentially done in Hindi. So all the communication, all the correspondence between central government offices and officers and these bodies and any statutory body in these states, they are clubbed as, they are categorized as region A, and in region A it is exceptionally and only in Hindi. So primarily in Hindi, let me put it that way, primarily in Hindi. If you look at another rule, it says and it designates region B. So region A, these states we have just listed here. Region B, another set of states. Let's see what are these states. So communication from a central government office or any officer to states and union territories in the region B that comprises of its states of Punjab. So Punjab, Gujarat, Maharashtra and the Union Territory of Chandigarh. They shall ordinarily be in Hindi. So this is not mandatory, only in Hindi. This is ordinarily be in Hindi. However, communication to any person in region B may be either in English or Hindi. So here you get a cushion, a choice, where it can be either in English or in Hindi. But the communication, official correspondence will be ordinarily, primarily and ordinarily be in Hindi. But in the first section, in the first category of region A, it is essentially in Hindi. In the second category, region B, English is also a choice. And then another rule says communication from a central government office to a state government office in the region C, and that region C is the rest of the country, which is not covered in A and B. So, for rest of the country, it comprises of all states, rest of the states and union territories not indicated in region A and B, and it shall be in English. So, Hindi is not mandatory, it shall be in English. Another rule says communication between central government offices and from central government offices to the state government offices, union territories and individuals will be in Hindi in such proportion as may be determined fit time to time, right. So, this gives you a flexibility. I'll come to the story of promotion of Hindi as official language and the government provisions and exercises that they have carried out. So, it gives you another rule says all manuals, codes and other procedural literature relating to central government offices are required to be prepared both in Hindi and English. All forms, headings of registers, nameplates, notice boards and various items of stationery etc. are also required to be in Hindi and English, essentially bilingual. It shall be the responsibility of the officer signing the document specified in section 3 of the Act, right, 1963 Official Language Act I am referring to, that these issues are taken care of and these documents are issued both in Hindi and English. And finally, shall be the responsibility of the administration and administrative head of each central government office to ensure that provisions of the Act, the rules and the directions issued under sub-rule 2 are properly compiled and complied with, and to devise suitable and effective checkpoints for this purpose. So, these are the rules formulated to ensure effective use and spread and acceptance of official language. Now, summing up, as we know, we got independence on 15th August 1947, and in order to draft a constitution for the newly independent country like India, which was such a diverse and huge country, a constituent assembly was constituted, and we got our constitution adopted on 26th January 1950. And in that constitution, part 17, from article 343 to article 351, we have a very elaborately laid down procedure of official language issue. And in article 343 declares Hindi in Devanagari script, right, and numerals in Roman to be official language of India. And if you want to know the details, you can look at the proceedings of the Constituent Assembly debates available. It runs into almost 4,000 pages. But there are certain sections where this issue has been debated. There was a long debate on Hindi as national language, right? But it could not be agreed upon. An insistence of non-Hindi speaking states and their representatives finally developed a consensus to approve Hindi as official language, mind you, not national language. And looking at the limitations of functions of this newly adopted constitution and Hindi as a language, English was allowed and approved and adopted as associate official language, and a 15 years window period was given to the government to ensure the development, right, extension of functions, acceptability, and wider presence of Hindi in 15 years. So government, set up a lot of committees, and then institutions, Raj Bhasha Vibhag, what you call official language department, and so many other procedures and so many other activities were carried out to promote, support, and develop Hindi, and to be accepted by majority of the country as official language. But as the window period was nearing to end, because the window period of 15 years was given to English, and as it was nearing an end, and that was 25th January 1965. Because on 26th, 1950, we adopted a constitution. A 15 years period, window period was given to English, that was supposed to end on 25th January midnight 1965. So as the date was nearing, we saw a sudden surge in anti-Hindi protest in all or majority of non-Hindi speaking states, led by Madras Presidency, that turned out to be very violent protest. And then Government of India had to convene a special parliament session, and the Official Language Act 1963 was passed, and amendment was done. Constitutional amendment was completed in 1967. In 1976, a very detailed set of rules were laid down. But what happened in 1963 Amendment Act, Official Language Act? It allowed English to continue as official associate official language sine die. That means the window period of 15 years given to English in 1950 on 26 January was called off, and it was allowed to continue as associate official language sine die till next order, till further provision. So today, as we are speaking in 2021, English continues to be our associate official language. So in that way, we have two official languages, Hindi and English, at federal level, at central level, and the central government and state government essentially communicates in Hindi only into specific categories of states, region A and region B, and rest of the country, rest of the states and union territories, there the communication between the state and the center is essentially in English, right? So this is it about official languages of India. When we talk about trilingual formula, we'll talk about the regional official languages of the states, and we'll see which state has what official language policy. We'll talk about regional language policies in India in other class. Thank you very much.